Only a fraction of the stories recorded are broadcast on the radio. However, with the participants' permission, all stories are, as I said earlier, archived at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. And in addition, stories with African American participants are archived at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. And stories recorded by Latino participants are archived in the Benson Collection at the University of Texas, Austin. Some stories are also included in local archives. Kerrie Cotton Williams, Archivist and Manager of the Archives Division at the Auburn Avenue Research Library on African American Culture and History, and a StoryCorps alumni, is with us today, a StoryCorps alumna with us tonight to talk about the importance of archiving our stories.
Hello. A friend of mine is here and she said, "Are you going to do the same speech that you do all the time?" I am. But I just want to, I'm really excited about this because I actually interviewed my mother twice for StoryCorps. And I remember it was 2007 that I was first introduced to StoryCorps through the Griot Project. And it was their initiative to identify cities where there were large populations of people of African descent. They didn't necessarily have to be American, they could have been immigrants, but they had to be of African descent. And so StoryCorps reached out to the Auburn Avenue Research Library, and we were able to come up with a partnership that I think benefited everyone, especially the city of Atlanta. And it was through that Griot project that we worked with organizations, local organizations. But I did ask my family members to participate. My mother was one family member. And I remember having a conversation with her. She was very distrustful about where was her story going to be placed and who was going to listen to it and who would have access to it. And I had been in my job for a number of years, and I said, well, I'm going to preserve your story. And she said, well, who's going to listen to it? I said, lots of people will listen to it. And I said, you could listen to it too, over and over and over again. So she eventually said, yes, she would. And then I interviewed her another time, and she was really excited about that. And so the conversation that I had with my mother, I had with other people, and I have with you, is that it's very important to think about your story in a larger context, in a larger historical narrative. And so the oral histories that we collected were part of a larger historical narrative about African and African American history. And they weren't just about civil rights. They were also about LGBTQ communities, and they were also about middle class and working class and issues that face various communities and diverse communities. And so our mission is to provide access to those stories and then also to collect around those stories. So a part of our initiative that came from the StoryCorps Griot Project was for us in the archives to really think about how do we collect the stories of African Americans living in Atlanta, and are those stories diverse? And we began to really actively collect the personal papers and institutional records of African American gays and lesbians. And so now we have a very strong foundation of oral histories, but also personal papers and institutional records in Life Atlanta, Ada Rentas, Brenda Banks, Cheryl Courtney Evans, and all of those individuals have donated their papers to us, and we've also collected their oral histories. So if you know anyone who is interested in sharing their stories, please contact us or go through StoryCorps, and we really hope that we can partner with them again on preserving the legacy and the culture of people of African descent in the Atlanta area.